The smell of burning sandalwood was the first thing I registered, thick and cloying, mixed with the metallic tang of my own blood. My eyes flew open, and I was staring at the familiar vermilion rafters of my own bedchamber. My body ached, a deep, bone-weary soreness that felt like I'd been beaten, but there was no pain. Just a phantom memory of it. The last thing I remembered was the cold flagstones of the main courtyard, the jeering crowd, and the gavel of the magistrate slamming down, condemning me for the adultery I never committed. I sat up, my hand flying to my chest. My heart was hammering, but it was whole. I was whole. My lady, you're awake. A young maid rushed in, her face a mask of genuine concern. It was Xiaoyan, the sweet, simple girl who had been sold to me just a year before my death. She had been loyal to the end, and I had watched her be sold off to a brothel as punishment for serving a disgraced mistress. A sob of relief choked in my throat, but I forced it down. What day is it? My voice was raw, foreign to my own ears. It's the 10th of the 6th month, my lady, Xiaoyan said, helping me to my feet and guiding me to the vanity. You've been ill for 3 days. The physician said it was a severe qi deficiency. The 10th of the 6th month. My heart seized. That was the day I had woken from a similar illness in my past life. The day I had discovered my husband, General Wei Cheng, had brought a distant cousin to live in the household to help manage the servants. That cousin was Lin Yuyan, the woman who smiled like a flower and wielded a poison needle. The woman who had slowly, meticulously, convinced everyone that I was a jealous, violent shrew. The woman who had framed me for having an affair with a traveling merchant. The relief I felt curdled into a cold, furious clarity. I was back. Back in my own body, in my own time, 3 years before I would be dragged through the mud and publicly executed. My lady, Xiaoyan began, her voice dropping to a nervous whisper. The general has returned. He is in the main hall with the new Lady Lin. My fists clenched. There it was. The first crisis. The reintroduction of my enemy, not in a year, not in a month, but on this very day. The same harmless smile, the same dulcet tone she would use to twist the knife. I had been too sick and too naive to see it before. I had welcomed her, pitied her. Help me dress, I said, my voice flat, my eyes fixed on my reflection in the bronze mirror. The woman staring back was pale, gaunt, with dark circles under her eyes. She looked every inch the beaten wife. Perfect. I chose a simple, dark blue robe with no embroidery, the color of a widow's mourning, a stark contrast to the vibrant silks I would have worn before. I left my hair unbound, a cascade of black that made me look fragile and young. This was the face of a woman who had just been ill, not a threat. Let her see the same weak, trusting fool she had destroyed before. Xiaoyan and I walked to the main hall. My legs were shaky and it worked to my advantage. The moment I entered, my husband, Wei Cheng, rose. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his military bearing as impeccable as ever. He was handsome, and I had once believed him to be my hero. He was my executioner, too. He had the power to save me and had chosen to believe the slander. Xiaoyao, he said, his voice a mixture of surprise and irritation. You should be resting. I heard we had a guest, General, I said softly, keeping my eyes downcast. It would be rude of me not to welcome her. There she was. Lin Yuyan. She was seated on a small stool beside him, dressed in a simple, elegant pink that made her look like a spring peach. Her hands were clasped in her lap, her posture perfect. She looked like a gentle breeze in the storm of my life. Her eyes, when they met mine, were pools of serene sympathy. Sister Yao, she said, rising gracefully to curtsy. Her voice was like the tinkling of a bell. Please forgive the intrusion. General Wei was gracious enough to offer me shelter after my parents passed. I am only a poor, grateful cousin. I hope I have not caused you any trouble. A poor, grateful cousin. I had heard this exact speech before. I had believed her, patted her hand, and told her she was always welcome. I had opened the door to my own hell. Cousin Lin, I began, my voice trembling. I looked at her, making my lips quiver. You are not a trouble. You are family. I saw the flicker of triumph in her eyes, so quick it was barely there. She thought she had already won. But I continued, taking a step closer, wavering on my feet. It is just, I let the hesitation hang in the air. I looked from her to Wei Cheng. I had a most terrible nightmare while I was ill. Wei Cheng sighed, a gesture of impatience. Nightmares are not uncommon after a fever, Xiao Yao. You should eat something and rest. No, my lord, I insisted, my voice catching. It was so vivid. I dreamed I was you, cousin Lin, standing in the garden by the lotus pond. I saw her gaze sharpen, just for a second. You were speaking to a man. He was a merchant, with a red birthmark on his left cheek. You were telling him that I was the one who had written all those love letters that were found in my room. You said you had planted them there. The color drained from Lin Yuyan's face. It was a fraction of a moment, but I saw it. The merchant with the birthmark was the man she had used to frame me. The name, the letters, the secret meeting places, they were all things she had orchestrated in my past life. She had no idea I knew about him. I don't understand, Sister Yao, she stammered, forcing a confused, hurt expression. Why would I dream of such a thing? I have never met any merchants. I am barely acquainted with the servants here. It was just a dream, I said, giving a weak smile. It felt so real, I had to ask you. You know, in my dream, you wore a jade hairpin, the one with the little turquoise butterfly. I've never seen you wear it, though. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Wei Cheng's eyes were not on me, but on Lin Yuyan. He knew that hairpin. I remembered him giving it to her as a gift for her birthday in my past life, a trinket he'd said reminded him of her innocence. But in this life, he had not yet given it to her. A jade hairpin? Wei Cheng repeated, his brow furrowing. He looked at Lin Yuyan, a sliver of doubt finally entering his gaze. Yuyan, you have a hairpin with a turquoise butterfly? Her perfect composure cracked. A flash of panic, pure and animalistic, crossed her features. No, I do not, General. This woman is clearly delirious from her illness. She is seeing things, inventing things. I saw my opportunity and I seized it. I stumbled forward, falling to my knees in front of my husband, a display of vulnerability I had never shown him before. In my past life, I had raged, I had pleaded, I had fought tooth and nail, and it only made me look guilty. This time, I would be the victim. My lord, I beg you, I cried, letting the tears spill freely. They were real. The tears were for the woman I had been, the one who had died believing no one would ever believe her. I have been ill, yes. But the woman in my nightmare, she said she would ruin me. She said she would tell you I was unfaithful. I know you are a great general, a man of honor. Please, I beg you to look into her past. Ask your men to investigate where this cousin truly came from. I saw Wei Cheng's jaw tighten. He was a man of duty, a man who valued honor above all else. My appeal to his soldier's instinct was the first crack in Lin Yuyan's shield. Wei Cheng! Lin Yuyan shrieked, all pretense of gentleness gone for a moment. She realized her mistake instantly and modulated her tone, softening it back to a pathetic whimper. This is a betrayal of trust. I came to you as a friend, a relative in need. And now your wife, on her sickbed, is telling you lies about me. She has not accused you of anything, Wei Cheng said, his voice low and dangerous. She told you about a dream. But if there is a merchant with a birthmark in the capital, it should be a simple matter to find him. I will have my men look into it. For peace of mind. It was not a full victory, but it was the first stone I had dislodged in the fortress of his trust in her. He was a man of logic. I had given him a logical inconsistency to chew on. The perfect, fragile cousin who had suddenly appeared and demanded to be trusted. I rose, still crying. Forgive me, cousin Lin. I am not well. I will take my leave. I turned, signaling to Xiaoyan. As I was led away, I heard Wei Cheng command one of his lieutenants to find the merchant. The moment I was back in my chambers, I stopped crying. I looked at Xiaoyan, whose face was a mixture of confusion and awe. Xiaoyan, I said, my tone now sharp and clear. You are the only person I trust. I need you to do exactly as I say. Do not, under any circumstances, let Lin Yuyan into my chambers. If she sends you a gift, bring it to me first. If she speaks to you, report every word to me. She is a viper, and I will not be bitten again. The first blow was struck. It was small, a whisper compared to the screams my death would have been, but it was a beginning. She had wanted to frame me quietly, to manipulate everyone around me. Now, I had placed the first seed of suspicion in the most fertile ground of all, the mind of her most powerful ally. I would not just survive this time. I would make sure the world saw her for the monster she truly was. The game had begun, and this time, I was no longer the player. I was the one holding the board. But as I sat down, my hands still trembling, Xiaolian leaned in close, her face pale. "My lady," she whispered, "there is something else. While you were asleep, Lady Lin came to your room. She said she wanted to pray for your recovery. I was outside, but I heard her. I heard her say your name. She said, 'Rest well, Sister Yao. When you wake, you will find the world has changed.'" And then she laughed. A very quiet laugh. I thought it was my imagination, but the blood in my veins turned to ice. She had not just been waiting for me to wake. She had already been in my room, already begun whatever poison she was planting. The hairpin, the merchant, those were the future. But Xiaolian had just told me something that had never happened in my first life. Something I had no memory of. Which meant Lin Yuyan had been working in the shadows before I even knew she existed. I looked at my vanity, at the small lacquered box where I kept my jewelry. My hands moved before my mind could catch up, flipping the lid open. The box was empty. My mother's jade bracelet, the only thing I had left of her, was gone. The emptiness of that box hit me like a physical blow. My mother's bracelet, pale green jade carved with lotus flowers, had been my most treasured possession. It was the only proof I had that she had ever existed, that I had once been loved by someone who saw me as more than a political tool. And it was gone. Stolen. By the woman who had smiled at me not an hour ago and called me sister. Xiaolian saw my face and gasped. "My lady, what is it?" "She took it," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "While I was asleep. She came into my room, and she took my mother's bracelet." "But why?" Xiaolian's eyes were wide with horror. "It's just a piece of jewelry. She has so many finer things already." I closed the box and pressed my palms flat against the lacquered surface, forcing myself to breathe. Lin Yuyan wasn't a common thief. She was a strategist. She had taken the bracelet not for its value, but for what it represented. She was telling me, even before our first proper encounter, that she could reach into my most sacred spaces and take whatever she wanted. It was a declaration of war delivered while I was still too weak to fight back. In my past life, I had never noticed the bracelet was missing until weeks later. By then, I had been so consumed by her manipulations, so exhausted by the constant accusations of jealousy and cruelty, that I had convinced myself I must have misplaced it. I had blamed my own carelessness, just like I had blamed myself for everything else she orchestrated. I had handed her the rope to hang me with, and she had used every inch of it. I stood up, my legs steadier now. The shock was wearing off, replaced by a cold fury that burned away the last of the fever's fog. "Xiaolian, I need you to listen very carefully. What else did you hear?" "Every word, every sound, every breath." Xiaolian wrung her hands, her young face twisted in concentration. "She was in here for a long time, my lady. At least an hour. I heard her moving around, opening drawers and closing them. I thought she was just tidying, the way she offered to help with the household chores. But then I heard her stop at your bedside. She stood there for a while, just looking at you. That was when she said your name and laughed. Did she take anything else? Did she leave anything behind?" Xiaolian shook her head. "I don't think so. But after she left, I went in to check on you, and I noticed your pillows had been rearranged. You were lying differently than how I had left you. I thought you had just moved in your sleep, but now I knew better. Lin Yuyan had not just stolen from me. She had staged something." I walked to my bed and ran my hands over the silk coverlet, the embroidered pillows, the thick quilts. At first, nothing seemed out of place. But then my fingers brushed against something hard and cool beneath the bottom pillow. I pulled it out and felt my stomach drop. It was a man's handkerchief. Fine white silk, embroidered with a single red plum blossom in the corner. And next to it, a small slip of paper with a single line of poetry written in a bold, masculine hand. "When the moon rises over the eastern pavilion, My heart waits for you. The ink was fresh. The handkerchief smelled faintly of sandalwood and something else, something sharp and medicinal, like the tonic Lin Yuyan had been brewing in her rooms since she arrived. She had planted this on my bed while I was unconscious. If I had woken up and found it myself, if I had been the naive, trusting woman I once was, I would have been confused. I might have shown it to Wei Chung, thinking it was a gift from him. And he would have seen it for what she wanted him to see, evidence of a secret lover. But I knew better now. I knew exactly what she was doing. The handkerchief, the poetry, the stolen bracelet, they were all pieces of a single, elaborate trap. She was building a case against me before I even had a chance to defend myself. In my past life, the merchant with the birthmark had been her final weapon. But here, in these early days, she was already laying the groundwork with smaller, subtler accusations. A misplaced bracelet to make me seem careless. A suspicious handkerchief to plant the seed of doubt. A little bit of poison whispered into the right ears. I held the handkerchief up to my nose and inhaled deeply. The sandalwood was a mask. The sharp, medicinal scent underneath was something I recognized. It was the same tonic that had been prescribed to me by the physician for my fever. The same tonic that Lin Yuyan had helpfully offered to brew for me herself. She had used my own medicine to make her trap smell like my bedchamber. She was thorough. I had to give her that. Xiaolian, I said, my voice calm now, controlled. Go to the kitchen. Tell the head cook that I am feeling stronger and would like a pot of ginseng tea. Ask her to brew it herself and bring it to me. Do not let anyone else touch it. Xiaolian nodded and hurried out. The moment she was gone, I moved. I stuffed the handkerchief and the poetry slip into my sleeve and walked to the small altar I kept in the corner of my room. It was a simple shrine to my mother, with a portrait of her and a single stick of incense that I burned every morning. I knelt down and pressed my palm flat against the wooden base of the altar. There was a small compartment beneath it, hidden by a sliding panel. I had built it myself years ago, to keep secrets that even Wei Chung did not know about. I slid the panel open and placed the handkerchief inside. Then I closed it, smoothing the silk altar cloth back into place. She wanted to plant evidence where I would find it. Well, I had found it. But I would not give her the satisfaction of using it against me. When Xiaolian returned with the tea, I was sitting calmly at my vanity, brushing my hair. The ginseng tea was fragrant and steaming, and I took a long sip, letting the warmth spread through my chest. Xiaolian, I said, do you know who in this household is closest to Lady Lin? Xiaolian hesitated. There is a maid, my lady. A girl named Qinghua. She was assigned to Lady Lin when she first arrived. She seems quite devoted to her. Qinghua. The name was familiar. In my past life, Qinghua had been the one to accidentally let slip to the servants that I had been seen arguing with a merchant in the garden. She had been Lin Yuyan's eyes and ears, her most trusted operative. I had never suspected her because she was so quiet, so unassuming. She was always in the background, always invisible. Until she wasn't. Invite Qinghua to my chambers, I said. Tell her I would like her to help me choose a new hairpin for the upcoming festival. Tell her I have always admired her taste in accessories. Xiaolian's eyes widened, but she did not question me. She simply nodded and left. I waited, sipping my tea, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was inviting the enemy's spy into my lair. But in my past life, I had been the one who was always reacting, always defending. This time, I would be the one asking questions. Qinghua arrived within the hour. She was a small, mousy girl with a perpetually downcast gaze and a voice so soft it was almost a whisper. She curtsied when she entered, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. You wish to see me, my lady? She asked, her eyes fixed on the floor. Yes, Qinghua, I said, my voice warm and welcoming. Please sit. I gestured to the stool beside me. I have been so ill, and I have not had a chance to properly welcome Lady Lin to the household. I thought perhaps you could help me. You are so close to her. You must know her tastes, her preferences. I would like to give her a gift, something that truly pleases her. Qinghua's shoulders relaxed slightly. She thought this was a trap, but not the kind I was actually setting. She thought I was just a foolish, insecure wife trying to win favor with my husband's new companion. Lady Lin is very fond of jade, my lady, Qinghua said, her voice gaining a little confidence. Especially pale green jade. She says it reminds her of spring. Pale green jade. Like my mother's bracelet. The one she had stolen from me. The audacity of it made my blood boil, but I kept my face serene. Pale green jade, I repeated, nodding thoughtfully. How lovely. I have a piece myself, actually. An old heirloom from my mother. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. But I seemed to have misplaced it. Perhaps Lady Lin would know where I could find something similar. Qinghua's face flickered. It was just a split second, a tightening around her eyes, but I caught it. She knew exactly where the bracelet was. She had probably helped Lin Yuyan take it. I am not sure, my lady, Qinghua stammered. I could ask Lady Lin if she knows of any reputable jade merchants in the capital. That would be wonderful, I said, smiling brightly. Please tell her I am most grateful for any assistance she can provide. I dismissed her with a nod, and she hurried out of my chambers like a rabbit fleeing a hunter. The moment she was gone, I let the smile drop from my face. Xiaolian appeared at my side, her expression troubled. My lady, why did you tell her about the bracelet? Now she will warn Lady Lin that you know it is missing. Exactly, I said. I want her to know I know. I want her to wonder what else I know, what I have figured out, what I am planning. Fear is a weapon, Xiaolian. And right now, I want Lin Yuyan to be very, very afraid. I had not told Xiaolian about the handkerchief. I had not told her about the poetry or the trap Lin Yuyan had laid on my bed. Some secrets were too dangerous to share, even with those I trusted. But I had planted my own seeds. I had made Qinghua nervous. I had made Lin Yuyan aware that I was not the fool she remembered. And I had hidden evidence that could destroy me if it ever surfaced. But even as I sat there, feeling the first flush of victory, a cold doubt crept into my mind. If Lin Yuyan had been willing to plant evidence in my room so early, so boldly, what else had she done? What other traps had she set that I did not yet know about? I thought about the merchant with the birthmark. In my past life, he had appeared a year from now. But this time, with her plans accelerated, with me pushing her into a corner, she might not wait. She might try to destroy me now, before I could gather enough strength to fight back. The ginseng tea had gone cold in my hands. I set it down and stood, walking to the window that overlooked the courtyard below. The garden was peaceful, the lotus pond still and glistening in the afternoon sun. It was beautiful, serene, the perfect picture of a respectable general's household. But beneath the surface, war was brewing. And I was the one who had started it. I heard a commotion from the main gate, the sound of horses and raised voices. I leaned forward, squinting through the sunlight. A rider had arrived, a man in military uniform, his face grim. He was speaking urgently to one of Wei Chang's lieutenants, his hands gesturing toward something in the distance. My heart began to race. That messenger had not been in my past life. Not on this day, not at this hour. Something had changed. Something I had not planned for. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to find Xiaolian, her face pale as milk. My lady, she whispered, the lieutenant just told the head housekeeper. There has been a discovery in the city. A merchant with a red birthmark on his left cheek. He was found dead in his lodgings this morning. Murdered. The words hit me like a tidal wave. The merchant was dead. The man Lin Yuyan had used to frame me in my past life was dead. Before he could even be questioned. Before Wei Chang's men could find him and bring him back to the household. She had known about my dream. She had panicked. And she had silenced him. But that was not what made my blood freeze. What made my vision swim was the realization that followed immediately after. If Lin Yuyan had the power to have a man killed within hours of my accusation, she was not just a scheming concubine. She was connected to something much larger, much more dangerous. She was not just playing a game of jealousy and manipulation. She was playing for my life. And she had already proved she was willing to kill to win. The news of the merchant's death spread through the household like wildfire. By the time the sun had set, every servant, every cook, every stable boy knew that a man with a red birthmark had been found with his throat cut in a rented room near the Eastern Market. The whispers were relentless. I heard them through the walls, through the thin paper screens, through the very fabric of the house that had become my prison and my battlefield. They said he had been a trader in silks, that he had come to the capital seeking better prices for his wares. They said he had been seen talking to a woman in the gardens of a noble household just days before his death. They did not know which household. They did not know which woman. But I knew. And I knew that Lin Yuyan had moved faster than I had anticipated, more ruthlessly than I had imagined. I sat in my chambers, the cold tea untouched beside me, and I forced myself to think. In my past life, the merchant had been her puppet. She had paid him to write those love letters, to claim I had promised him my affections in exchange for rare silks and jewels. He had testified against me in court, his voice steady and convincing, his red birthmark serving as the identifying detail that had sealed my fate. He had been her weapon, her tool, her accomplice. But in this life, he was dead. She had killed him to protect herself. And in doing so, she had revealed something far more important than her guilt. She had revealed her network. No woman, not even the cleverest concubine, could have a merchant killed on such short notice without help. She had allies. She had resources. She had people in the city who would do her bidding without question. And I had no idea who they were. Xiaolian entered quietly, her steps light and careful. She carried a small tray with a bowl of congee and a plate of pickled vegetables. "My lady, you must eat," she said, setting the tray down. "You have not touched anything since this morning." I looked at the food and felt my stomach turn. But she was right. I needed my strength. I picked up the spoon and forced myself to take a bite. The congee was warm and bland, but it settled in my stomach like a stone. "Xiaolian," I said, my voice low, "do you know anyone in the household who has family in the Eastern market, anyone who might have connections to merchants, to tradesmen, to the kinds of people who would know about a man like the one who was killed?" Xiaolian thought for a moment. Her brow furrowed as she sifted through the gossip she had collected over the past few days. "There is a groom, my lady. His name is Lao Chen. He works in the stables, but his brother runs a tea shop near the market. He hears things. The servants say he knows everyone." Lao Chen. I did not remember him from my past life, but that meant nothing. There were dozens of servants in this household, and I had been too preoccupied with my own suffering to pay attention to most of them. But now I needed information. I needed to know who Lin Yuyan had been meeting with, who she had paid, who she had threatened. "Bring him to me," I said. "Tonight, after the household is asleep. Do not let anyone see you. Do not tell anyone why." Xiaolian nodded and slipped out of the room. I finished the congee in silence, my mind racing through the possibilities. If Lao Chen knew something, I could use it. If he was loyal to Lin Yuyan, I would have to find another way. Either way, I had to move quickly. The merchant's death had bought me time, but it had also raised the stakes. Lin Yuyan was not just playing with my reputation anymore. She was playing with my life. The hours passed slowly. I heard the sounds of the household settling down for the night, the creak of doors, the murmur of voices, the distant barking of a dog in the kennels. I waited, my heart pounding in my chest, until the house fell silent. Then Xiaolian returned, a grizzled old man shuffling behind her. Lao Chen was thin and bent, his face weathered by years of hard labor. He kept his eyes downcast as he entered, his hands twisting nervously in his sleeves. "You wanted to see me, my lady?" he asked, his voice rough and hesitant. I gestured for him to sit. He perched on the edge of a stool, looking like he would rather be anywhere else. "Lao Chen," I said, my voice soft and calm, "I have a question for you, and I need you to answer honestly. If you do, I will reward you well. If you lie to me, I will know." He swallowed hard but nodded. "The merchant who was found dead this morning," I said. "Do you know him?" Lao Chen's face went pale. For a moment, I thought he would deny it. But then he let out a shaky breath and said, "I knew him, my lady. Not well, but I knew him." "Who introduced him to this household?" Lao Chen hesitated. His eyes darted to Xiaolian, then back to me. "It was a maid, my lady. A girl named Qinghua. She came to the stables a few days ago, asking if I knew any merchants who dealt in fine silk. She said she had a message to deliver." "Qinghua." The spy I had invited into my chambers just hours earlier. She had been the one to bring the merchant into the household's orbit. She had been the one to connect him to Lin Yuyan. Did she meet him? I asked. Did Qinghua take him somewhere? Lao Chen nodded. She took him to the garden behind the lotus pond, my lady. I saw them from the stable roof. I was mending a broken shutter. They spoke for a long time. And then the merchant left. I did not see him again until I heard he was dead. My hands were trembling, but I forced them to still. Did you see anyone else, any other woman, any other servant? Lao Chen shook his head. No, my lady. Just Qinghua and the merchant. I believed him. He had no reason to lie. But the knot in my stomach tightened nonetheless. Qinghua was the link, the conduit between Lin Yuyan and the dead merchant. And Qinghua was still in this household, still serving her mistress, still carrying out orders that could destroy me. I dismissed Lao Chen with a pouch of silver and a warning to speak of this to no one. He left quickly, his relief palpable. Xiaolian watched him go, her face pale. My lady, she whispered, Qinghua was the one who brought the merchant here. She set the trap. I know, I said. And now I need to decide what to do with her. In my past life, Qinghua had been the one to testify against me. She had claimed she had seen me meeting with the merchant, that she had heard me plotting to run away with him, that she had found love letters in my room. Her testimony had been the nail in my coffin. And now, knowing that she had been the one to bring him into the household, to orchestrate his meetings, to ensure his testimony was ready, I understood just how deeply Lin Yuyan's poison had spread. But Qinghua was not the mastermind. She was a tool, a loyal and desperate tool who had probably been promised a great deal of money or a husband or a future far beyond what her station could offer. If I could turn her, if I could make her see that her mistress was willing to kill to protect her secrets, she might become my most powerful weapon. I stood up and began to pace the room. Xiaolian, I need you to find out everything you can about Qinghua. Where she comes from, who her family is, what she wants more than anything in the world. If we can find her weakness, we can use it. Xiaolian nodded, her eyes bright with determination. I will, my lady. I will speak to the kitchen maids. They know everything about everyone. She hurried out, and I was alone with my thoughts. The night pressed against the windows, dark and silent. But I could not rest. I could not sleep. Not when every moment brought me closer to the trap that Lin Yuyan was setting for me. I thought about the handkerchief hidden beneath my mother's altar. I thought about the stolen bracelet, the poetry, the dead merchant. All of it was connected. All of it was part of a plan that Lin Yuyan had been constructing long before she ever set foot in this household. She had not come here seeking shelter. She had come here seeking destruction. My destruction. But why? What had I ever done to her? I had never met her before she arrived at our gates. I had never spoken a harsh word to her, never crossed her path, never given her any reason to hate me. And yet she had hated me with a passion that had consumed my life and ended it. Unless she was not acting alone. Unless someone else had put her up to this. Someone who wanted me ruined, who wanted me dead, who had sent Lin Yuyan as a weapon to do their bidding. The thought sent a chill down my spine. I had always believed Lin Yuyan was the master of her own schemes. But what if she was just a pawn, a beautiful, cunning pawn sent by someone far more powerful? Someone who had been watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. I had no answers. Only questions, more questions with every passing hour. But one thing was certain. I could not afford to wait. I could not afford to be patient. Every day that passed was another day for Lin Yuyan to tighten her grip, to plant more evidence, to turn more people against me. I needed to act. And I needed to act now. I walked to my desk and unrolled a sheet of paper. I picked up my brush, dipped it in ink, and began to write. It was a letter, simple and direct, addressed to the magistrate of the Eastern District. In it, I described the merchant's murder and named Qinghua as a person of interest. I did not mention Lin Yuyan. I did not accuse her directly. I simply planted a seed, the same way she had planted her handkerchief on my bed. If the magistrate investigated Qinghua, he might find something. He might discover the connection between her and Lin Yuyan. He might even find evidence of the conspiracy that had taken the merchant's life. But even as I sealed the letter, even as I handed it to Xiaolian and told her to find a trusted messenger, I knew it was a gamble. The magistrate might be in Lin Yuyan's pocket. The messenger might be loyal to her. The letter might never reach its destination. I had to be prepared for that. I had to have another plan, and another, and another. As I sat down, exhausted but determined, I heard a soft knock at my door. My heart leaped into my throat. It was past midnight. No one should be awake at this hour. Xiaolian moved to the door, her hand trembling. She opened it a crack, then gasped and stepped back. A figure stood in the doorway, cloaked in darkness. I could not see their face, but I could see their eyes. They were cold and sharp, filled with a fury that made my blood run cold. Lady Yao, the figure said, their voice low and rough, you should not have written that letter. I froze. My hand went to the desk, to the inkstone, to anything I could use as a weapon. But before I could move, the figure stepped into the light. It was Qinghua. Her face was twisted with rage, her hands clenched at her sides. And in her hand, she held a knife. You think you can destroy her, Qinghua hissed. You think you can touch her? She is the most powerful person in the city, and you are nothing. A dead woman walking. Xiaolian screamed, but I held up my hand, silencing her. I looked into Qinghua's eyes, into the madness there, and I saw something I had not expected. I saw fear. She was afraid. Not of me. Not of my letter. But of what Lin Yuyan would do to her if she failed. Qinghua, I said, my voice steady, I am not your enemy. I know what she has done to you. I know she promised you things she can never deliver. But if you help me, I can protect you. I can give you a way out. Qinghua laughed, a wild, desperate sound. A way out? There is no way out. There is only her. And there is only you, bleeding on the floor. She lunged forward, the knife aimed at my chest. But I was ready. In my past life, I had died on a cold stone courtyard. I had died helpless, broken, betrayed. I had died believing there was no hope, no escape, no justice. But this time, I was not helpless. I had spent hours in my past life learning to survive, even if I had failed. And this time, I had prepared. I grabbed the inkstone from my desk and hurled it at her face. It struck her square in the forehead, and she staggered, the knife falling from her hand. I was on her in an instant, my hands around her wrist, pinning her to the ground. Xiaolian screamed for the guards. Footsteps pounded in the hallway. The door burst open, and Wei Cheng himself stood there, his sword drawn, his eyes blazing. He looked at me, at Qinghua, at the knife on the floor. And then he looked at me, really looked at me, as if seeing me for the first time. Xiaoyao, he said, his voice hoarse. What happened? I looked up at him, my chest heaving, my hands still gripping Qinghua's wrist. And I said the words I had been waiting 3 years, 1 lifetime, to say. Ask her, I said, my voice shaking but clear. Ask her who sent her to kill me. The room fell silent. The weight of the moment pressed down on all of us. And in that silence, I heard something that made my blood freeze. A soft, gentle laugh, drifting through the open window from the courtyard below. It was Lin Yuyan. And she was still watching. The laugh drifted through the window like a ghost, soft and mocking, and I felt every hair on my arms stand on end. Wei Cheng heard it too. His head snapped toward the window, his hand tightening on his sword. But by the time he reached the sill and looked down into the courtyard, there was nothing there. Just the silent garden, the lotus pond gleaming silver in the moonlight, and the shadows of the willows swaying in the breeze. Lin Yuyan was gone. But she had made her point. She had been watching. She had seen everything. And she had let me know, in that single, chilling laugh, that I was still her prey. Wei Cheng turned back to me, his face a mask of confusion and barely contained fury. Xiaoyao, explain. Now. Who is this girl? Why does she have a knife in your chambers? And why did you write a letter to the magistrate? The letter. I had forgotten about the letter. It was still on my desk, sealed and addressed, waiting to be sent. I had been so focused on Qinghua's attack that I had not even thought about what it contained, what it would reveal to Wei Cheng if he read it. But it was too late. He had already seen it. He strode to my desk, picked up the letter and broke the seal without asking permission. His eyes scanned the contents, and I watched his face change. The confusion hardened into suspicion. The fury deepened into something darker, colder. Xiao Yao, he said, his voice dangerously quiet, you wrote to the magistrate accusing a maid of this household of complicity in a murder. You did not consult me. You did not inform me. You went behind my back to the authorities, as if I were a stranger, as if I had no authority over my own house. I opened my mouth to respond, but Qinghua chose that moment to stir. She was still on the floor, dazed from the blow of the inkstone. But she was conscious enough to speak, and she used that voice like a weapon. My lord, she whimpered, tears streaming down her face. I was only following orders. Lady Yao is a liar and a schemer. She has been plotting against Lady Lin since the moment she arrived. She tried to frame Lady Lin for stealing her jewelry. She tried to create a story about a merchant that never existed. She is mad, my lord. I swear she is mad. I felt the room tilt. Qinghua was twisting everything. She was making herself the victim, making me the villain, and Wei Cheng was listening. I could see it in his eyes. The doubt. The hesitation. The same doubt that had doomed me in my past life. But I was not the same woman. I would not crumble. I would not plead. I would not beg. I straightened my spine, met his gaze, and spoke. My lord, the merchant was real. He was murdered this morning. If you send men to the Eastern Market, you will find witnesses who saw him alive just yesterday. You will find records of his lodgings, his business dealings, his associations. Qinghua herself was seen meeting with him in the garden behind the lotus pond. Lao Chen, the groom, saw them. He will confirm it. Wei Cheng's eyes narrowed. He looked from me to Qinghua, weighing our words. Lao Chen, the old groom, yes, I said. He told me himself, not an hour ago. He saw Qinghua bring the merchant into the garden. He saw them speak. He will repeat what he saw to you if you ask him. Wei Cheng was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to the guards who had accompanied him. Find Lao Chen. Bring him to the main hall. And take this girl to the servants' quarters and keep her under guard. No one speaks to her until I say so. The guards moved quickly. They hauled Qinghua to her feet, her protests dying in her throat as she realized her situation had just become far more complicated than she had anticipated. As they dragged her out, she shot me a look of pure hatred, a promise that this was not over. But I had no time to dwell on her. Wei Cheng turned back to me, his face unreadable. Xiao Yao, you have been ill. You have been seeing things, dreaming things. Are you certain you are well enough to be involved in this? It was a trap. A soft, gentle trap, just like the ones Lin Yuyan laid. He was giving me an out, a way to retreat, a way to be the fragile, confused wife who needed rest and solitude. If I took it, I would be safe. But I would also be defeated. I would be confirming his suspicion that I was unstable, unreliable, unworthy of trust. I would not take it. I am more well than I have been in years, my lord, I said, my voice steady. I am clear-headed. I am certain. And I am telling you the truth. He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly, almost imperceptibly, and walked to the door. I will speak to Lao Chen. If what you say is true, then we have a problem in this household that must be addressed. If you are lying, Xiao Yao. He let the threat hang in the air, unfinished but unmistakable. He left. The room was suddenly too quiet, too empty. I sank onto my bed, my legs trembling beneath me. Xiaolian rushed to my side, her face pale and streaked with tears. My lady, are you hurt? Did she cut you? Are you? I'm fine, Xiaolian, I said, my voice hollow. I'm fine. But she almost. I could not finish the sentence. The reality of what had just happened was crashing down on me like a wave. Qinghua had tried to kill me. She had been ordered to kill me. And Lin Yuyan had been watching, waiting, hoping to see me fall. But I had not fallen. I had fought back. And now, for the first time, Wei Cheng was starting to see the cracks in Lin Yuyan's perfect facade. The next hour was a blur. I heard the commotion from the main hall, the raised voices, the sound of Lao Chen being questioned. I heard Wei Cheng's voice, sharp and demanding, and I heard the old groom's trembling answers. I heard Qinghua's muffled protests, the guard's gruff commands, the heavy thud of doors being closed. And then I heard footsteps approaching my chambers. Not the light, hurried steps of a servant. The heavy, measured tread of a soldier. Wei Cheng entered alone. He closed the door behind him and stood in the center of the room, his face haggard. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then he spoke. Lao Chen confirmed everything. He saw Qinghua with the merchant. He saw them meet. He heard them mention a woman's name, though he could not remember which one. But it is enough. It is enough to prove that Qinghua is connected to the dead man. I nodded slowly, my heart pounding. Then you believe me, my lord. He did not answer immediately. He walked to the window, the same window where Lin Yuyan's laughter had drifted through just an hour ago. He stared out at the garden, his back to me. Xiao Yao, I have known you for 5 years, he said, his voice low. You have never been a liar. You have never been deceitful. But lately, I have seen something in you that I do not recognize. A coldness. A calculation. You look at me as if I am a stranger. I felt a pang of guilt, sharp and unexpected. He was right. I had been treating him like an enemy, like the man who had watched me die and done nothing. But he was not that man yet. Not in this life. He had not yet chosen Lin Yuyan over me. He had not yet condemned me to death. I have been ill, I said, choosing my words carefully. I have been dreaming terrible things. And when I woke, I found a woman in my home who claims to be your cousin, a woman I have never met, a woman who seems to know everything about me, everything about this household, everything about the weaknesses of the people around her. I do not trust her, my lord. And I do not think you should either. Wei Chen turned to face me. His eyes were troubled, conflicted. She has given me no reason to distrust her. She has been nothing but kind, nothing but helpful. She has offered to manage the household, to ease your burdens, to replace me, I said, the words sharp and cold. She is offering to replace me, my lord. And you are letting her. The silence that followed was unbearable. I could see the war raging behind his eyes. The loyalty he owed me, his wife. The attraction he felt toward Lin Yuyan, the innocent, wounded cousin who had appeared so conveniently. The doubt I had sown, the seed of suspicion that was just beginning to take root. I will investigate further, he said finally. I will speak to the magistrate myself. I will find out who killed that merchant and why. But Xiao Yao, if you are wrong, I am not wrong, I said. I have never been more right about anything in my life. He left without another word. I was alone again, the weight of the night pressing down on me. But I could not rest. I could not sleep. Not when Lin Yuyan was still out there, still scheming, still waiting for her next opportunity. I rose from the bed and walked to my mother's altar. I slid open the hidden panel and pulled out the handkerchief and the slip of poetry. I held them in my hands, feeling their weight, their danger. They were evidence. They were weapons. And I had to decide how to use them. If I showed them to Wei Cheng now, he would see them for what they were, a trap. But he might also wonder why I had hidden them, why I had not told him about them immediately. He might suspect that I had planted them myself, that I was the one playing the game of deception. If I waited, if I kept them secret, I could use them later. When the moment was right. When Lin Yuyan had overplayed her hand and I could expose her with undeniable proof. But the memory of her laugh haunted me. She was not just a scheming concubine. She was a predator, and I was her prey. And prey did not survive by waiting. I made a decision. I would not wait. I would strike first. I called Xiaolian to my side. I need you to find the magistrate's wife, I said. Her name is Lady Zheng. She is known to be fair, compassionate, and deeply suspicious of outsiders. Tell her that I have information about the merchant's murder. Tell her that I have evidence, and I will share it with her if she will meet me in secret. Xiaolian's eyes widened. My lady, if Lady Lin finds out, she will find out, I said. That is the point. I want her to know that I am not afraid. I want her to know that I am fighting back. And I want her to make a mistake. Xiaolian left, and I was alone with my thoughts. The night stretched on, endless and dark. But I did not sleep. I could not sleep. Not when every moment brought me closer to the confrontation that would determine my fate. Dawn came slowly, pale and gray. The household stirred to life, the sounds of servants and cooks and guards filling the air. I dressed in my finest robes, a deep crimson that made me look like a woman of power and purpose. I painted my lips, darkened my brows, and for the first time in my past life, I looked in the mirror and saw a woman ready for battle. I walked to the main hall, my steps steady, my head held high. Wei Cheng was there, along with several of his lieutenants, their faces grim. They had been up all night, investigating, questioning, trying to piece together the truth. And Lin Yuyan was there too. She sat in her usual place, dressed in pale lavender, her hands clasped in her lap. She looked at me as I entered, and for the first time, I saw something other than serenity in her eyes. I saw fear. She had heard about Qinghua. She had heard about Lao Chen. She knew that her carefully constructed world was starting to crumble. But she was not defeated. Not yet. She smiled at me, that sweet, gentle smile, and said, "Sister Yao, you look so much stronger today. I am so relieved to see you recovering." "Thank you, Cousin Lin," I said, my voice equally sweet. "I have made a full recovery. In fact, I feel better than I have in years. I feel as though I have been given a second chance." Wei Cheng looked between us, his brow furrowed. "Xiao Yao, I was just about to send for you. The magistrate has sent word. He has agreed to investigate the merchant's death. He wants to speak to Qinghua. He wants to speak to Lao Chen. And he wants to speak to you." I nodded. "I am ready, my lord." Lin Yuyan's smile faltered. Just a flicker, just a moment, but I saw it. She had not expected this. She had not expected me to be so calm, so composed, so willing to face the magistrate. But she recovered quickly. She rose from her seat, her movements graceful, and walked to Wei Cheng's side. "My lord," she said, her voice soft and pleading, "I am so worried for Sister Yao. She has been through so much, and this investigation will only add to her stress. Perhaps she should rest, let the magistrate's men handle this without her." It was a clever move, a gentle move. She was painting herself as the concerned friend, the one who cared about my well-being. She was trying to keep me away from the magistrate, away from the investigation, away from the truth. But I would not be kept away. "I am grateful for your concern, Cousin Lin," I said, "but I am the one who found the handkerchief. I am the one who heard the merchant's name. I am the one who saw Qinghua's guilt. I must be there." Wei Cheng looked at me, and for a moment, I saw something in his eyes that I had not seen in years. Respect. Trust. Belief. "Xiao Yao is right," he said. "She must be there. She is the center of this mystery, and she will see it through." Lin Yuyan's face went pale. Her hands trembled, just slightly, before she clasped them together. She had lost this round. She knew it. And I knew it. But as I turned to leave, as I prepared to face the magistrate, I felt a cold hand on my arm. It was Lin Yuyan, her fingers like ice, her voice a whisper that only I could hear. "Be careful, Sister Yao," she said. "The truth is a dangerous thing. It can cut both ways. And when the magistrate learns about your mother's bracelet, about the letters you wrote, about the lover you hid in your bedchamber." She smiled, a cold, triumphant smile. "You are not the only one who has evidence." My blood ran cold. She knew about the handkerchief. She knew I had hidden it. And she knew that if I was not careful, I would be the one on trial, not her. I pulled my arm free and walked away. But her words echoed in my mind, a warning and a threat. The game was far from over. And I was just beginning to understand how far Lin Yuyan was willing to go to win. The magistrate's courtyard was a place I had visited only once before in my memory, and that visit had ended with my head on a block. The stones beneath my feet felt the same, cold and unyielding, as I walked through the gates with Wei Cheng at my side. But this time, I was not a prisoner. This time, I was a witness. A survivor. A woman who had crawled back from the grave to set the record straight. Magistrate Zheng was a thin, sharp-eyed man with a beard that had gone completely white. His wife, Lady Zheng, sat beside him, her presence a quiet reminder that this was not just a formal proceeding, but a household matter that had spilled into the public sphere. She watched me with keen interest, her eyes missing nothing. I had chosen well when I sent Xiaolian to her. The hall was crowded. Wei Cheng's lieutenants stood along the walls. Qinghua was kneeling in the center, her wrists bound, her face streaked with tears that I knew were calculated. Lao Chen stood to one side, his hands trembling, his eyes fixed on the floor. And in the corner, barely visible in the shadows, stood Lin Yuyan. She had insisted on coming, claiming she wanted to support her sister through this ordeal. I knew better. She was here to watch, to listen, to find new ways to destroy me. Magistrate Zheng cleared his throat, and the room fell silent. We are here to investigate the death of a merchant, one Zhang Wei, found murdered in his lodgings 3 days ago. The victim was known to have connections to this household, specifically to the maid Qinghua, who has been identified as having met with him in the garden behind the lotus pond. Lady Ya has come forward with evidence that suggests a conspiracy within this household to frame her for adultery and subsequently murder the merchant to silence him. Qinghua sobbed, a pitiful sound that echoed through the hall. I am innocent, Your Honor. I was only following orders. I did not kill anyone. I did not. Whose orders? Magistrate Zheng's voice was sharp, cutting through her protests like a blade. Qinghua's eyes darted to the corner where Lin Yuyan stood. It was a split-second glance, barely perceptible, but I caught it. So did Lady Zheng, whose lips pressed into a thin line. I was ordered by the head housekeeper, Qinghua stammered. She told me the merchant had information about Lady Yao's affairs. She told me to meet with him and report back. I did not know he would be killed. I swear it. It was a lie. A desperate, clumsy lie. The head housekeeper was a dull, loyal woman who barely had the wit to manage the pantry, let alone orchestrate a murder. But Qinghua was banking on the confusion, hoping that by throwing out another name, she could muddy the waters enough to save herself. Bring in the head housekeeper, Magistrate Zheng ordered. The woman was brought in, trembling and bewildered. She denied everything, her voice shaking as she swore she had never spoken to Qinghua about any merchant, never given any orders about meeting anyone in the garden. Her confusion was too genuine, too unfeigned. Even the magistrate could see it. Qinghua, Magistrate Zheng said, his voice cold, you are lying. And lying to a magistrate is a serious crime. If you do not tell the truth, I will have you beaten until you do. Qinghua's composure cracked. She looked at Lin Yuyan again, her eyes pleading for help. But Lin Yuyan remained still, her face a mask of serene concern, giving nothing away. Your Honor, Lin Yuyan said, stepping forward, her voice soft and melodic, I believe this girl is simply frightened. She is young, easily influenced. Perhaps she was coerced by someone else, someone with more power and influence within the household. She was planting seeds. Subtle, gentle seeds. She was suggesting that I, the lady of the household, was the one who had coerced Qinghua, that I was the mastermind behind the conspiracy. It was a brilliant move, a masterful deflection, and I felt the room's attention shift toward me. But I was ready. I had been waiting for this moment. Your Honor, I said, stepping forward, I have evidence that will prove my innocence and identify the true conspirator. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out the handkerchief and the slip of poetry. These were planted in my bedchamber while I was unconscious from my illness. They were placed there by someone who wanted to make it appear as though I was carrying on a secret affair. The handwriting on the poetry is a man's hand, but the silk of the handkerchief is the same material as the robes Lady Lin has been wearing since she arrived. Lin Yuyan's face went pale. That is absurd. I have never seen that handkerchief before in my life. Then how, I said, turning to face her, did Qinghua know about it? How did she know to tell the magistrate that I had a secret lover in my bedchamber? How did she know to mention the poetry? Qinghua's eyes went wide with panic. She had not expected this. She had not expected me to bring the evidence into the open, to name Lin Yuyan directly. I did not know about any poetry, Qinghua stammered. I was told there were love letters, but I never saw them. By whom? Magistrate Zheng demanded. Who told you? Qinghua opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked at Lin Yuyan, her face a mask of terror. And then, with a scream, she pointed. She did. Lady Lin. She told me to plant the handkerchief. She told me to lie about the letters. She promised me money if I helped her destroy Lady Yao. The room erupted. Wei Cheng's face was white with shock. Magistrate Zhang's eyes narrowed. Lady Zheng rose from her seat, her hand pressed to her chest. Lin Yuyan's composure shattered. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. She stepped back, her hand going to her throat. This is slander. This girl is lying to save herself. I have never spoken to her about any of this. Then why, I said, my voice cutting through the chaos, did you steal my mother's jade bracelet, the one that was in my room before you arrived and disappeared while I was unconscious? Lin Yuyan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She was trapped. Cornered. The web of lies she had spun was collapsing around her, and she had nowhere to run. But then, something happened that I had not expected. She laughed. A soft, bitter laugh, filled with contempt. You think you have won, Sister Yao, she said, her voice low and dangerous. You think this is the end. You do not know who I am. You do not know what I am capable of. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. She held it up for all to see. This is a letter, written in your own hand, Lady Yao. It confesses to a secret affair with the merchant. It names him as your lover. It begs him to run away with you. And it is signed with your seal. My heart stopped. I had never written such a letter. I had never even met the merchant before Qinghua brought him to the garden. But Lin Yuyan had been preparing for this. She had forged my handwriting, copied my seal, created a document that would condemn me. Your Honor, Lin Yuyan said, her voice steady now, I found this letter hidden in Lady Yao's chambers. I kept it because I was too afraid to come forward, too afraid of what she might do to me. But now, seeing her slander me in front of you, I cannot remain silent. She is the one who conspired with the merchant. She is the one who killed him when he threatened to expose her. And she is the one who tried to blame me. The room exploded into chaos. Wei Cheng was shouting. Magistrate Zheng was calling for order. Lady Zheng was staring at the letter as if it were a snake about to strike. I felt my world tilt. The letter was a devastating blow. It was exactly the kind of forged evidence that had condemned me in my past life. And now, in this life, it was being used against me again. But I had one advantage that I had not had before. I knew her methods. I knew her patterns. I knew the lies she would tell and the evidence she would fabricate. I stepped forward, my voice clear and steady. Your Honor, that letter is a forgery. I have never written any such confession. And I can prove it. The room fell silent. Even Lin Yuyan looked startled. Bring in a handwriting expert, I said. Have the letter compared to my known writing. My own correspondence, my household accounts, my poetry. There will be inconsistencies. There will be flaws. And when the expert finds them, Lady Lin's lies will be exposed. Magistrate Zheng nodded slowly. That is a reasonable request. I will have the letter examined by the court scribe. In the meantime, both Lady Yao and Lady Lin will remain in the capital, under the supervision of my officers. No one is to leave the city until this matter is resolved. Wei Cheng stepped forward, his face pale. Your Honor, my wife is not a fugitive. She is the lady of my household. I will vouch for her. Then you will vouch for both of them, Magistrate Zheng said coldly. This is a murder investigation, General. I will not be swayed by rank or privilege. We were dismissed. I walked out of the hall on unsteady legs, my mind racing. The letter was a new threat, one I had not anticipated. But I had been right to demand the handwriting analysis. I knew my own writing. I knew the flourishes and loops that Lin Yuyan could never replicate. But as I stepped into the courtyard, I felt a hand on my arm. It was Lady Zheng, her face kind but serious. Lady Yao, she said, her voice low, I want you to know that I believe you. I have seen women like Lin Yuyan before. They smile and they charm, and they leave destruction in their wake. But you must be careful. She is more dangerous than you realize. I know, I said. She has already tried to have me killed. Lady Zheng's eyes widened. Then you must act quickly. The letter will be examined within 3 days. If you cannot prove it is a forgery, you will be the one arrested, not her. 3 days. I had 3 days to find the truth, to expose Lin Yuyan's conspiracy, to save my life. I returned to the household in a daze. Wei Cheng was silent beside me, his face troubled. He had seen the letter. He had seen the evidence against me. And despite everything, I could see the doubt creeping back into his eyes. Xiao Yao, he said, his voice heavy, if that letter is genuine. It is not, I said. I swear to you, my lord, it is not. He did not answer. He simply walked away, his shoulders hunched with the weight of his uncertainty. I went in my chambers and closed the door. Xiaolian was there, her face pale with fear. My lady, what happened? Is it true? Is there a letter? No, I said. It is a forgery. But she is clever. She is prepared for this. She has been preparing for years. I sat down at my desk and began to write. Not a letter to the magistrate, not a confession or a plea. I wrote a list. Every inconsistency, every contradiction, every moment when Lin Yuyan had slipped. The merchant who had been killed before he could testify. The bracelet that had disappeared. The handkerchief that had been planted. The knife that Qinghua had carried into my chambers. And then I wrote down the one thing that Lin Yuyan had not anticipated. The one piece of evidence that could destroy her completely. I wrote down her real name. It had come to me in a dream. Or maybe it was a memory from my past life, a fragment of overheard conversation that had been buried deep in my mind. She was not Lin Yuyan. She was not a poor, grateful cousin. She was the daughter of a disgraced official, a man who had been executed for treason decades ago. She had been raised in exile, trained in the arts of deception and manipulation. She had been sent to the capital to infiltrate the households of powerful men, to sow discord and destroy their families from within. And she had chosen me. I did not know who had sent her. I did not know the full extent of her mission. But I knew enough. I knew that she was not just a scheming concubine. She was a weapon. A weapon aimed at Wei Qing, at his household, at everything he had built. I folded the letter and sealed it with my own wax. I gave it to Xiaolian and told her to hide it, to keep it safe, to show it to no one until I gave the word. And then I waited. I waited for the handwriting analysis. I waited for Lin Yuyan's next move. I waited for the truth to come out, one way or another. But I did not wait alone. That night, as I sat in the darkness of my chambers, I heard a soft knock at the door. I opened it to find Wei Cheng standing there, his face haggard, his eyes bloodshot. Xiaoyao, he said, his voice rough. I have been thinking. About the letter. About the merchant. About everything. I nodded, my heart pounding. And what have you decided? He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. He took my hands in his grip warm and strong. I have decided that I believe you. I have seen the way Yuan looks at you. The way she watches you, waits for you to stumble. I have seen the way the servants look away when she walks past, as if they are afraid of being caught in her gaze. I was blind before. I let her charm me, let her manipulate me. But I see her now. And I see you. The woman I married. The woman I trusted. Tears welled in my eyes. I had waited so long to hear those words, in my past life and in this one. I had died believing he would never believe me. And now, against all odds, he was standing here, telling me that I was not alone. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for believing me. He pulled me into an embrace, and for the first time since I had woken up in this new life, I felt truly safe. But even as I leaned into him, I knew that the battle was not over. Lin Yuyan was still out there, still scheming, still waiting for her moment to strike. The handwriting analysis would be done in 3 days. If it exonerated me, Lin Yuyan would be exposed as a liar and a forger. If it condemned me, I would be arrested, tried, and executed. The stakes had never been higher. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that Lin Yuyan would not go down without a fight. She would do anything to win. Anything to destroy me. But I was ready. I was stronger than I had ever been. And I would not let her win. Not again. Not ever. The days that followed were a blur of whispered conversations and stolen glances. Wei Cheng had taken it upon himself to investigate Lin Yuyan's past, using his military contacts to dig into the records of the disgraced official whose daughter she claimed to be. It was slow work, painstaking work, and every hour that passed felt like a lifetime. I did not leave my chambers. I could not. The household was a nest of vipers, and I did not know who had been turned by Lin Yuan's poison. Even the servants who had once been loyal to me now looked away when I passed, their eyes filled with fear and suspicion. She had done her work well. She had sown the seeds of doubt so deeply that even those who had known me for years were beginning to question my innocence. But I had Xiaolian. And I had Wei Cheng. And I had the truth. The morning of the handwriting analysis arrived with a gray, overcast sky. Rain threatened, heavy and oppressive, as if the heavens themselves were holding their breath. I dressed carefully, choosing a simple white robe with no adornment. I wanted to look pure. I wanted to look innocent. I wanted the magistrate to see a woman who had nothing to hide. Wei Qing met me at the gates of the household. He looked tired, his eyes rimmed with red, but there was a fire in them that I had not seen in years. Determination. Loyalty. Love. Xiaoyao, he said, taking my hands in his, I have found something. Something that will change everything. What is it? I asked, my heart pounding. He leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper. The official whose daughter Lin Yuyan claims to be. He had no daughter. He had only sons. She is not who she says she is. The words hit me like a bolt of lightning. I had suspected it, but to hear it confirmed was something else entirely. She was not just a liar. She was an imposter, a ghost with no past, a weapon with no name. Do you have proof? I asked. I have records. Birth records, census records, all sealed with the official seal of the province. I had them sent by courier, direct from the archives. They arrived last night. He reached into his sleeve and pulled out a thin folder, tied with red silk. This will destroy her. I took the folder, my hands trembling. It was heavy with the weight of justice. But even as I held it, I knew that Lin Yuyan would not go quietly. She would fight. She would lie. She would do whatever it took to save herself. We walked to the magistrate's hall together, our steps steady and sure. The courtyard was filled with onlookers, servants and merchants and nobles who had heard about the case and come to watch the spectacle. I spotted Lin Yuyan among them, dressed in pale yellow, her face a mask of serene confidence. She smiled when she saw me, a cold, mocking smile that sent a chill down my spine. Sister Yao, she said, her voice sweet and syrupy, how brave of you to come. I do hope the handwriting analysis will clear your name. It will, I said, matching her smile with one of my own. And I look forward to seeing the look on your face when it does. Her smile faltered, just for a moment. But she recovered quickly, turning away to speak to one of the magistrate's aides. We entered the hall. Magistrate Zheng was already seated, his wife at his side. The court scribe stood before them, holding a scroll in his hands. He looked nervous, his eyes darting from me to Lin Yuyan and back. Your Honor, the scribe said, bowing deeply, I have completed the analysis of the letter in question. I have compared it to known samples of Lady Yao's handwriting, including household accounts, correspondence, and poetry. There are inconsistencies. The room held its breath. I felt Wei Chang's hand tighten on mine. In what way? Magistrate Zheng asked, his voice sharp. The scribe hesitated. The handwriting is similar in many respects, Your Honor. The strokes, the pressure, the formation of certain characters. But there are subtle differences in the spacing and the angle of the brush. The letter appears to have been written by someone who is imitating Lady Yao's hand, but not perfectly. There are telltale signs of forgery. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Lin Yuyan's face went pale. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. This is absurd. The letter is genuine. I found it myself, hidden in Lady Yao's chambers. You found it, Magistrate Zheng said slowly, but you did not bring it to me immediately. You waited. You waited until you were accused of conspiracy. You waited until it was convenient. That is suspicious, Lady Lin. I was afraid. Lin Yuyan cried, her voice rising to a desperate pitch. I was afraid of what Lady Yao would do to me if I came forward. She is powerful, she is vindictive, she is my wife, Wei Cheng said, stepping forward, his voice like thunder. And you're a liar and a fraud. I have proof that you are not who you claim to be. He held up the folder, its red silk gleaming in the torchlight. This is a record from the province of Jiangnan, the home of the official whose daughter you claim to be. It states, clearly and unequivocally, that he had no daughters. Only sons. You are an impostor, Lin Yuyan. You have been lying to me, to my wife, to everyone in this household. And I want to know who sent you. The room erupted. Shouts of disbelief, gasps of shock, the murmurs of a crowd that had just realized they had been deceived. Lin Yuyan stumbled back, her hand going to her throat. This is a lie, she said, her voice shaking. This is a forgery, just like the one she planted in my room. Enough. Magistrate Zheng slammed his gavel down, silencing the room. Lady Lin, you will come forward and present your evidence. If you cannot prove your identity, you will be arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder and fraud. Lin Yuyan stood frozen, her face a mask of pure terror. I had seen her scared before, but never like this. Never with the walls closing in, never with no escape in sight. I stepped forward, the handkerchief and the poetry slip in my hand. Your Honor, I have additional evidence. This handkerchief and this poem were found in my bedchamber, planted by Lady Lin through her servant Qinghua. The same servant who met with the murdered merchant. The same servant who tried to kill me. All of it was orchestrated by Lady Lin. All of it was designed to destroy me and frame me for a crime I did not commit. Magistrate Zheng took the evidence, examining it carefully. This is compelling, he said. But it is still circumstantial. I need definitive proof that Lady Lin was behind the merchant's murder. Then I will give it to you, I said. I turned to face Lin Yuyan. Her eyes were wild, her composure completely shattered. She knew what was coming. She had seen it in my eyes, in the cold determination that had replaced the fear I had once felt. Lady Lin, I said, my voice clear and steady, you have been a guest in my home for weeks. In that time, you have stolen my mother's bracelet, forged my handwriting, planted false evidence in my chambers, and conspired with a servant to have me killed. But the most damning evidence against you is the one you did not expect me to know. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out a second piece of paper. It was a copy of the letter I had written to Wei Cheng, the one I had hidden with Xiaolian. It was not the original. It was a copy, made by the court scribe, verified as authentic. This letter, I said, holding it up, contains the name of the person who sent you to this household. The person who trained you, who funded you, who ordered you to destroy General Wei Qing and his family from within. Lin Yuyan's face went white. You cannot know that. I know everything, I said. I know that you were raised by a man named Qin Yuan, a former advisor to the previous emperor who was exiled for treason. I know that he has been building a network of spies and assassins for years, targeting the loyal generals and officials who helped put the current emperor on the throne. And I know that his next target was Wei Cheng. The room was silent. Even Magistrate Zheng looked stunned. Qin Yuan has been dead for 10 years, Lin Yuyan said, her voice a strangled whisper. No, I said. He is not dead. He is living in seclusion in the mountains, directing his network from afar. And you are one of his most trusted operatives. You were sent here to destroy my husband's reputation, to dismantle his household, to make him vulnerable to attack. But you failed. Because I saw through you. And I will not let you succeed. Lin Yuyan stared at me, her face unreadable. And then, slowly, she began to laugh. It was a bitter, hollow laugh, filled with despair and defeat. Clever, she said. You were so clever, Sister Yao. I underestimated you. I thought you were weak. I thought you were naive. But you are neither. You are a survivor. And I admire that. Admiration does not save you, Magistrate Zheng said coldly. Lady Lin, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and attempted assassination. You will be held in the city jail until your trial. And if you are found guilty, you will be executed. Lin Yuyan did not protest. She simply looked at me, her eyes filled with something I had not expected. Respect. I hope you are happy, she said. You have won. But you have also made an enemy of Qin Yuan. He will not forget this. He will not forgive this. And when he comes for you, I hope you are ready. She was led away, her wrists bound, her head held high. Even in defeat, she was defiant. Even in her final moments of freedom, she was dangerous. The hall emptied slowly, the crowd dispersing with murmured conversations and shaken heads. Wei Cheng took my hand, his grip warm and steady. It is over, he said. She is gone. You are safe. I looked at him, at the man who had once condemned me to death and had now saved my life. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Gratitude, yes. Relief, certainly. But also a deep, lingering sadness. The woman I had been, the woman who had died on those cold stones, was gone. She had been replaced by someone harder, colder, more calculating. Someone who had learned to survive at any cost. But I did not regret it. I could not. The change had saved my life. We walked back to the household together, the rain finally beginning to fall. It was a soft, gentle rain, washing the dust from the streets and the tension from my shoulders. By the time we reached the gates, the sun was beginning to break through the clouds. Wei Cheng stopped at the entrance to the garden, the same garden where Lin Yuyan had met with the merchant, the same garden where she had laughed at my defeat. He turned to me, his eyes filled with something I had not seen in a long time. Love. Xiao Yao, he said, his voice rough. I have been a fool. I let a stranger come between us. I let her poison my mind. But I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I swear it. I reached up and touched his cheek, my fingers brushing against the stubble that had grown there. I do not need you to make it up to me, I said. I need you to trust me, to believe me, to see me as your partner, not your property. I do, he said. I see you. And I am sorry it took me so long. He pulled me into an embrace, and I let myself relax into it. For the first time in my past life, for the first time in this one, I felt truly safe. I felt truly seen. But even as I leaned against him, I knew that the battle was not over. Lin Yuyan was in prison, but Chen Yuan was still out there. He was still plotting, still scheming, still waiting for his moment to strike. And one day, he would come for us. I would be ready. I looked up at the sky, at the sun breaking through the clouds, and I made a promise to myself. I would not let the past define me. I would not let fear control me. I would live my life, fully and completely, and I would face whatever came my way with the same strength and determination that had carried me through this nightmare. I was no longer the woman who had died on those cold stones. I was a survivor, a fighter, a woman who had clawed her way back from the grave to claim her future. And I would never, ever let anyone take it from me again.